The first part of the whole child approach to consider is the child part. One of the main problems with elementary right now is the emphasis on academics. Generally speaking, academics are how adults learn, not children. And children are not little adults. They don't learn the same way adults do because their brains and bodies are not yet fully developed. Here's what the School of Positive Psychology has to say. Children are not small adults. Rather, they are individuals in transition whose growth into adulthood should be supported, encouraged, and facilitated. They have a distinct way to look at the world and have very specific needs at different points of time in their growing years. The growth of children cannot be sped up. They are young people with little life experiences and not fully developed brains to cope with the world and learn about themselves and others. If, like the painter of this Madonna and Child, we treat children like little adults, the results are a little off. So what are the results that we want from our whole child approach education? These next slides are word clouds from parent surveys of what they want their children to be when they grow up. Most of us are in agreement about the kind of kids we want when they become adults: responsible, kind, independent, confident, happy. But how do we get there? We teach the whole child. Here are the categories that I've broken up the whole child into: cognitive, emotional, physical, character, social, conflict, and they're right there in the middle. You'll see individuality. Let's start with the obvious one at a school, the cognitive development part of a whole child approach, the thinking, problem solving, and learning part. Then we have the emotional: regulation, communication, expression, and awareness of the moment or mindfulness. It takes some kids more time and space than others to work through parts of their emotional development. This is a photo of one of the Alpha Aides helping two students get the emotional space they needed. I walked up the stairs in this room and said, "What you doing?" And Miss Amy said, "We're just sitting in our emotions for a minute." These two girls needed the space to kind of process while their classmates were on the other side of the room doing their regular work. Under physical development, I have written sensory experiences, gross and fine motor skills, and expression. Physical development is so overlooked in our world, and it's one of the reasons we do project-based hands-on learning, because physical learning is so foundational. All ages need it. These kids are 13 and 14-year-olds. This quote by Bev Boss, preschool educator, "If it hasn't been in the hand and the body, it can't be in the brain," applies to all of us. For this next aspect of the whole child approach, I chose character as the umbrella word. But I'd love to hear what you would choose. This has to do with a child realizing their place in the world, morally. They're developing understanding of fairness, right and wrong, values, and maybe we could even put spirituality under this area. Social development is one of the things parents really value us for. Kids need interactions outside their siblings to further their social development, to develop relationships, receive support, express their needs and boundaries, and it's just learning about others. This is one of my all-time favorite pictures. This bench outside one of the classrooms was another one of those "I need spaces. And the student crying on the bench is stuck in a storm of "nobody likes me" because she didn't get to be on the team she wanted. The kind of inflexibility in certain neurodiversities. This student comforting her also has the same neurodiversity and is able to recognize, support, and help this student develop more socially. This one might seem odd to you, but it is deserving of its own time and thought. Conflict. We're talking about the hard stuff, the failure, that we have to normalize with support to help students move forward instead of getting stuck. And finally, individuality. It's so important for creativity and collaboration and artistic expression and innovation and happiness for the individual to develop a sense of their individuality, their strengths, their gifts, and their passions. They can't do that without their agency in the learning environment. So now it's time to talk about the approach or application of how we teach the whole child. And we're not going to spend a ton of time in this video going over it because most of the approaches we use, there's a lot of overlap in how to create an environment that allows the whole child to develop. So here's my quick brainstorm of how some of the ways that we do that. In coming trainings, we will break it down into specific environmental or procedural or ways that we teach skills to develop the whole child.